Hi there and welcome to trendfollower.co.uk. I thought I would look back at some of my old trades and see if I can learn a few trading lessons. So join me for this. So I thought I'd just run through some of the trades that have closed in recent weeks and just see if there's anything that I can learn from them. This first one is the graph of Hochschild mining, and I opened it I think it's here, and it didn't do very well. It fell back down, and it got closed somewhere down here. And I remember saying on a video a few weeks ago that the graph on the spread betting platform was a bit different to this one, and that's why it's closed. But I'm not sure that was actually the case when I went back and had a look at it. And you can see how at this point 2 weeks ago the price had got to its lowest point, and since then it's risen up. And so if the trade had stayed open, I would have I'd be doing rather better than when the trade closed down here. And I think what happened was that when I opened the position and calculated my stop, which essentially is using these points here, and people that are members of my website will know how I do this. So I can work out this distance and feed that number into the trade when I open it. But what I hadn't taken into consideration was the spread. So if the price here comes within the distance of the spread to the stop, so just say your stop is 50 points below, and you're moving down towards the stop, and you reach 10 points above the stop. If your spread is more than 10 points, then the position will close. So even though the price hasn't actually hit your stop, because of the consideration of the spread, then your trade will get closed. So I'm changing the way I set my stops now. So I'm working out what the stop distance is. I'm then adding on the amount of spread. So I look at the difference between the buy price and the sell price, and I add that onto the distance that the stop is going to be. And I also add on the amount of points that I pay to guarantee that the position will be closed at a certain price. So there are two things that I add on to the stop distance. So if I'm opening the trade here, for instance, I work out what this distance is between the stop down here and the price at which I open. I add on the spread differential, and also add on the guarantee differential. So that will actually mean that the price really will have to hit the stop for the trade to get closed, because what I've learned from this trade is that if I don't put in as much clearance as I should do, then my trade gets closed really before it actually hits its stop. And I want to keep my stop as wide as reasonably I can, so that I can allow for the sort of general ebb and flow of the tide. And if I'd done that with this trade, I'd still have the trade running. And if I open the graph up, you can see that this has really come from quite a low, and one could be optimistic possibly that it really is going to fly, but obviously there are ebbs and flows, and if I'd used that technique of stop loss calculation, then this trade would still be open, and that's a shame. So that's something to learn from. And the same is exactly true for this trade. You may remember I was waxing lyrical about commodity producers gold, one of the iShares ETFs, which I opened the week here as the price came up through the SMA, and calculated the stop loss relative to this point here, and the trade got closed 2 weeks later as it dropped down to here, but it actually didn't hit the stop. But because of the difference between the buy and the sell price, and the guaranteed amount that I pay, that amount factored in and kicked the trade into touch. And so again, if I'd added those figures onto the stop loss distance, then the trade would still be open. You can see that from a point 2 weeks ago, the trade was actually gone up again. So again, this is a trade that I suspect could do quite well. So I'm still keeping an eye on it, and if it does rise up through the 50 SMA, again, I may well go long on that. Now, just to show that sometimes things just don't go your way, this is the trade you might recall in the BlackRock World Mining Trust, which I opened here. Did nicely for a couple of weeks, then just fell back down and literally did go through my my stop loss figure. Since then, it started to rise again. So again, it may be a trade to look at opening in a week or so if that comes up through the SMA. But I think if I do open it, I'm going to run it with a much wider stop, probably somewhere down here, below the lowest low of July of last year. So I'll keep a close eye on that and see how it goes, because mining is something that I think is on the up, but obviously, things are very volatile at the moment, and it's very expensive to open a trade and get stopped out of it, only to find that a few weeks later the trade actually would be profitable. So the lesson that I've learned from looking at those trades is to set up my trade and not to fiddle with it during the week, but just to move the stop loss at the end of the week and let the trade run. But I do need to make sure that I've calculated the gap of the stop loss correctly. It needs to be the stop loss plus the difference between the buy and the sell price, that's the spread, plus the amount of difference that I pay to guarantee that the price or the position is closed at the correct price. So there are three things to add on. So that can make the stop loss seem much wider, but that will stop my trade from being stopped out prematurely, which happened to some of those trades.